Hey, welcome back to my channel once again, and thank you for being here. My name is Derek, and I'm right on the edge. So, right now we're going to react to a sealed Nazi lab and figure out what's inside. I don't want to read this whole time because it's like, wow, what's inside? I don't know. I don't know. Or what could be? Nazi stuff? Guess it's not, personally. But who knows? Maybe there'll be like documents and stuff like that. This is very cool. Further ado, like, watch the video.
Buried beneath an unmarked forest trail near the German-Czech border was a bunker no one was supposed to find.
Ooh.
No survivors,
Well, that seems massively bigger than first map was, huh?
no bomb craters. Inside, crystallized nerve agents, blackboards covered in brainwave collapse equations, and a red folder labeled Nebelkern.
And it's an extraordinary program because
That's
all
crazy.
those involved knew what was going on. It's not as if they were blinded. They accept that euthanasia is a legitimate policy.
But the real shock came deeper. Photographs of human test
there
subjects.
Yeah, they were all that when the whole society around you all goes into one like mass delusion or whatever. I know that some of these people were blackmailed into it, but I think that so many agreed with it. Like, I just don't know how you get to that rabbit hole. But my psychology professors, college, they said we're all just 2 steps away from being like murderer or an extremist.
Lumped in fog chambers, tagged only as S14. And when you hear what Phase 3, no response, really meant, you'll understand why this story was never meant to surface.
To making troops do things that they couldn't normally do. It was almost...
Well, yeah, I mean, that's why didn't they give them meth and stuff like of that nature? I think they gave them meth so that they could go longer and eat less.
like a chemical unlocking of superhuman ability.
What was this place? They called it V49 Sud. That was the only thing ever logged. No staff rosters, no design blueprints, no operation manuals, just a name, buried in dusty wartime archives. But when researchers began comparing maps from the 1940s with newly declassified aerial photos, it became clear this wasn't an isolated bunker. It was one node in a wider network of underground facilities built during the later stages of World War II. And based on scattered notes from Blizna and Peenemünde, some historians think this one might have been part of Nazi Germany's chemical weapons black program.
God, that's something unnerving about seeing a whole bunch of people in like little fucking masks like that. But like the atrocities committed by the Nazi regime are just, every time you learn more, it gets worse, right? You've already think yeah, you've reached the bottom, and yet they just dig a little bit more.
We're talking about tabun, sarin, the same nerve agents that Nazi scientists weaponized before anyone else in the modern world. Tabun was first synthesized by German chemist Gerhard Schroeder in 1936, and by 1942, Hitler's scientists had already begun producing it in deadly quantities at a facility called Die Herrenfurth, now in modern-day Poland.
Man, speaking of Poland, dude, I just saw that some crazy streamer guy's son just went full Nazi. Yeah, I don't know which one because I wasn't paying that much attention, but I just saw like the headlines of this kid posted like Germany was right and they took over Poland and were just fixing all their problems, and I was like, wow, that's a take. But he's also 14, right? So you're 14, man. Like 14-year-olds are all idiots.
But after that site was taken out, the question was, where'd the rest of it go?
Brain fart right there.
V49 Sud might be the answer. The Allies never touched this place. In fact, intelligence documents from 1944 marked the region non-strategic. Translation: no bombs, no recon, no eyes, which makes it a sealed chamber frozen in time. But here's the wild part.
Found.
In a debriefing from a 1963 East German defector, there's one sentence that stands out. A mountain cell where the mist burns skin. People thought it was Cold War paranoia, until that exact phrase showed up in a handwritten field notebook recovered decades later at the site. That cracked everything wide
Oh wow. This was discovered like later on. That's okay.
open. Turns out, there were whispers of something called Project Nebel, Project Fog, a dispersion-based neutralization strategy using airborne destabilizers. Vague? Definitely. Harmless? Not even close. Some believe this wasn't about choking gas or lethal vapor. This was something more subtle, more controlled. A fog designed to disorient, confuse, break people down from the inside out. And the structure? Weirdly advanced. LiDAR scans showed a 60 by 35 meter bunker with steel-reinforced concrete, lead lining, and zinc panels. That's not basic defense. That's shielding, either to protect the outside world from what's inside or the other way around.
I wouldn't say that. I would say that that could just be like the Germans going overboard. Their bunkers were all pretty complex, you know.
From the radars here, there's not one radar, there are 6
Really?
big radars here, yes. And this is the heart of the technology.
Several architectural elements matched with Nazi blueprints recovered from Blizna and Peenemünde, both of which were key research hubs for the V-2 rocket program and the Wunderwaffe initiatives. But V-49 Süd didn't have launch pads or missile silos. Instead, it had laboratories, sealed rooms, drainage channels, and most disturbingly, a sub-basement with a medical wing. So why seal it? And more importantly, what were they hiding? For nearly 80 years, no one could open that door.
And I would say they sealed it because they no one got their research in there. Why will? Probably weren't ashamed of it. They just didn't want people to know what they were doing.
Until 2022. That's when a joint team of scientists, military historians, and archaeologists got clearance. And what they found behind the steel, that's where
Tell us.
things went from secret to terrifying. Opening the lab. The door wasn't normal. No handle, no hinges. Just a slab of rusted steel buried under moss and mud, sealed tighter than a vault. But ground scans didn't lie. There were rooms behind it, at least 5, maybe more. And after nearly 80 years of silence, the team was ready to open it. Summer 2022. Czech heritage officials gave the green light. Military-grade plasma cutters, hydraulic jacks, and magnetic sensors were brought in. Even then, it took hours. This wasn't a lock, it was a pressure-sealed system. Some said vacuum-preserved. Others? They weren't so sure. They thought it might have been meant to keep something in.
Vacuum sealing it. Keep some. I mean, vacuum seal would do that as well.
They didn't walk in, not at first. They dropped in a drone. Canary model. Small, light, fitted with gas sensors and thermal cams. What it found? Straight up eerie. The air was thick with nitrogen. Heavy, suffocating, total oxygen deprivation. But worse, traces of chlorinated hydrocarbons, phosphorus compounds. These weren't just old chemicals. These were byproducts of nerve agent synthesis. They had to move fast. Before opening it changed the balance and broke everything inside. Once ventilated, the team stepped in. And what they found? Straight out of a
Probably
nightmare.
pumped air in there.
Rows of metal tables frozen in time. Flasks still upright. Pipettes crusted with old residue. Glass tanks, some shattered, others sealed tight. Rubber stoppers so thick they cracked under tension. Drawers lined with vials. Labels scribbled in German shorthand. Some marked gift gas, poison gas, some with the skull and crossbones, and others, they had something worse. The Black Sun. That symbol didn't belong in a lab. It belonged to a darker corner of the SS, an occult one, a place where science bled into something else entirely.
About that. I've never heard about that. The black skull. I mean, yeah, all this stuff's scary to me.
Then came the wall of filing cabinets.
The view. There was a little wood cabin here that the stones are the remaining foundation of that cabin. And he used that as a writer's retreat to finish his book, Mein Kampf.
Well, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
All intact, locked, each labeled with cold clinical tags. Versuch A1 to A99, Test A1 to A99, Körperreaktionen, body reactions, and Übertragung, transmission. But one stood out, red folder, single word, Nebelkern. No official record, no translation. Best guess? Fog core. Sounds like a comic book weapon until they opened it.
Kind of is like a comic book weapon. But you know what? Video is kind of annoying, right? Because it's like showing back and forth, back and forth. This is like definitely AI. So I will call it there, and I'm trying to find the exact thing right here because obviously you're exploring it like later on. I recognize a couple. So I'm gonna try to find original, but I will upload this because it's interesting that this was found. Upload it, and maybe somebody can comment below of me like where the origin video. And shit, man, that's all. That's all for this video. Sorry, it's kind of like lackluster. I didn't want to keep going through this AI compilation. I would definitely recommend not subscribing to this, but you can if you want to. Hey, you know what? That's your type of brain rot.